Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the continuing of our 2019-2020 budget workshop. If you'll stand with me for the pledge, and Commissioner Zalek is going to give us a quick invocation.
Thank you, Lord, for this day that you've created. We ask you to continue to bless our community as you bless the deliberations of our county budget this day. We ask you to continue to give guidance and protect those that are out protecting us. Be with the families of Marion County and all that we do. We ask for your guidance in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless. Madam Clerk, if we could please have roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Chairman Stone?
Here.
Vice Chairman Moore?
Here.
Commissioner Bryant?
Here.
Commissioner Gold?
Here.
Commissioner Zalek?
Here.
Very good. Well, again, thank you for being with us this morning. We're looking forward to the presentations that will be coming forward. And to get us started, we have Beth McCall with the Marion County Children's Alliance. Good morning, Ms. McCall.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. First of all, I would be remiss if I did not say thank you for all the support that you give the Marion County Children's Alliance. To Commissioner Zalek, who actually sits on our board, thank you, sir, for all that you have done for us. I just want to share a few things with you, some initiatives that we are taking on this year. One of them, as we looked at the numbers of the substance-exposed newborn in our hospital, the numbers are shocking. And these children are coming into the world with not a lot of chance of tremendous success. So we have pulled some folks together. We are beginning to talk about some solutions for us, with the Children's Alliance kind of leading that force with the Community Council Against Substance Abuse, Nancy Castillo, where we'll be looking, we've got partners with Heart of Florida, the health department, so we're looking, so stay tuned. I think some really good things will come out of that. We have to do this in a compassionate way to be sure that the mamas that we're talking about have the opportunity to be healthy and stay healthy, have the tools to stay healthy during their pregnancy, and to have the opportunity to be good moms. So that takes on another whole light, and so we'll be working on that. My school board hat goes on with those children when I know that many of those children that are in that nursery as SENs come into our school system. They are our EBD children. They cost us 3 times the amount to educate as our gen ed kids, so that also, it's just better for everyone if we can help solve this problem. The other thing that we'll be looking at is we are working with Well Florida to begin a needs assessment on the family and domestic violence in our community, the root causes of that. We see escalation in that on a regular basis. And where are the gaps in services? What can we do as a community to also begin to solve those? Because we all know, if our children are healthy and safe, our community is a much better place for all. And then the third thing I share with you, we will award this year the very first Dr. Mike Jordan Award of Excellence, probably in January, to one of our organizations that's doing great work for the children of Marion County. So if you have no questions, I thank you and ask for you to consider our budget request of $15,000.
So I'll bring it to the board. Do we have any comments, questions? This was a new item that was added last year.
If you don't mind, I'm continuing to make a comment for the Children's Alliance. I think one of the things that we continue to need, and as you worked on the homeless issue this last year, what the Children's Alliance brings that we're missing in so many of these other groups is the fact that we bring and coalesce all of those, bring the conveyor of information, bring the groups together. Beth, I don't know what the counts are, but there are just over 100 people from all the different organizations every single month. Yes. At the meeting. Everybody's talking, communicating, collaborating. about children, about our families. And I think what the Children's Alliance does is very important, and it's hard. It's one of those things that administratively, as you well know, it's hard to get funding for that particular group because it's not specifically going and doing this one thing that you can say, okay, but it's bringing the administration part of it that has been desperately needed. So I just appreciate getting to serve on that board and what we're doing for kids in our community, and hopefully we can just continue that conversation so that, whether it's DCF or, Kids Central or the centers or any of these other people, when we're having that conversation and talking about services together, we are getting better as a community. And I think the results continue to show that, whether that's been the car seat program, cribs,
Safe Kids.
whatever it is
Correct.
that the Children's Alliance has helped to sponsor. It's, when they speak, the great part is that everybody's coming to the group and coming to the table to try to solve the problem.
And one of the things, I held focus groups when I first took over, and we had close to 50 organizations participate in the focus groups, and the one constant was the invaluable, what they get out of those monthly meetings and the collaboration and the networking. And we do have 90 to 100 at each one of those meetings, so.
Well, we appreciate the good work and your leadership, so thank you for what you do on behalf of our community.
Thank you so much.
We wish you a great day.
Thank you.
I'm going to pause really quick. I know Michael was going to start us off this morning with where we may be landing just based on yesterday. I do know that there are those in the audience who we'd like to speed up and get along, but Michael, do you have something for us you want to share real quick, so at least we know where we're starting out today?
That's fine. I did provide 2 handouts this morning. One is an update of the budget adjustments, and so far, the general funds reserve for contingency is now at, reserve for contingency is now at $4,009,036. It has increased $2,518,393 since the proposed budget, and this includes basically everything that the board had directed so far, and the only outstanding item that the board hasn't acted upon is the another potential revenue source of the general fund of $1,018,673, and that's awaiting board direction for the cost allocation for public safety radios. And that's not reflected in this number.
Okay.
I did reach out to the sheriff yesterday
did?
evening. I did, and he is fine with that. So I think that
I'm scheduling a meeting with him tomorrow morning.
I
I've been
just-
texting back and forth.
I knew he was out of town, and just to give him the heads up so he could start thinking that through and let him know about the kitchen. He's okay. So I know that I'm glad then. I wasn't sure if, anyway, he's prepared, but right off the cuff, he seemed okay with that.
So you want to move forward with it?
I think we can.
With the
Allocation.
allocation,
With the radio
absolutely.
allocation. To that, please continue on with your meeting, but he was okay.
Okay.
With that.
I'm counting.
Okay, he needs to see
Oh,
heads
yeah,
nodding, so.
Thank you.
Can we have Michael, though, for our next meeting, whatever it is today? I don't know, Madam Chair, if you want to at the end of the day or now, but, I mean, I'd like to see that drop, the millage rate, to see where
Yes.
we're at.
If we
Instead of
could,
got it
putting
already.
reserve.
Let's,
It's not.
is it in the backside here?
Oh, it's just on the reserve, but I don't know how much that drops the millage rate.
it would be,
Because it's 2 point,
right, it'd be, it drops at .31,
.31.
and it, well, that's, yeah, including the cost allocation.
That's everything.
That's everything.
It would drop the 3.84 to, it'll drop the 3.84 to .31. Right?
Wait, let's see. No, I'm sorry, no, it's, no, .2 mils, a total of .2
Point
mils.
two. Sorry.
Down to 3.64. And if you would like, I can reflect that then. This is a
As long as I know what it is,
draft
fine.
of the agenda item that will be on, for Tuesday's meeting.
Michael, have you, because I don't think that I don't remember that we gave clear direction the other day, Madam Chair, if you don't mind,
Go ahead.
about the $150,000 expense on the kitchen. I know that we discussed it, but I don't know if, yeah, huh? We have not.
I think there are several things on that capital list through facilities that we can still go through and make adjustments on.
Okay.
And if y'all want to do that at the close of today, perhaps, we may want to go ahead and give him that at the end. Versus doing that this moment, just to keep our schedule going, but maybe we can stay afterwards and look at
Yeah, we have
those.
2-3 projects we can talk about that
Okay.
maybe can be delayed.
All right.
Sounds good.
And then
What-
if,
Okay, go ahead.
and just so I understand correctly, then whatever, the board has taken action on the cost allocation, and then also any other funding or expenditure appropriation reductions would be reflected in this proposed millage rate for the agenda item?
Go ahead, Mr. Boyanis.
And Commissioner, I mean, this is one other item that could help too, the discussion we had about, but no, this is not in the general fund, the wellness coordinator.
Oh, yeah.
After the discussion we had, we can keep that under the insurance agent, the way it is today, instead of becoming a county position.
Okay.
But that was in the insurance fund, it's not gonna impact general
It
fund.
would have been, so today, it's the cost allocation as well as the annualization that Mr. Tomich had provided yesterday morning. Those are the two big items at this time. And then the clerk, his return of $100,000.
Right. All the items are listed on that first report
Ah,
as
thank
adjustments
you.
to the
You're
reserve.
so good. Okay, thank you.
We're still 0.3 mils over the current millage rate and
0.31.
0.5 mils over the rollback.
0.31.
Yeah, I don't have the rollback rate in front of me, but.
And lots of conversations yet to go. Thank you, sir.
Can I have consensus to keep the wellness coordinator
Yes.
in the,
Insurance fund.
under the insurance fund, under the agent, the insurance agent, like a contract employee? We need to change
Everybody
that in
good?
the budget.
Okay,
We'll give you the information.
yeah, we'll need to know the contract amount to make that change.
Thank you, Audrey and Michael. Okay, next up, we have Kevin Shealy with the Ocala Marion County Chamber and Economic Partnership. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's always good to be with you. I don't have much of a presentation today. As always, happy to answer any questions. Just a few quick notes for you. And probably most importantly to the conversation today, we are not looking for any change in our current funding. I know you enjoy hearing that. Some quick notes. We are very excited. We are anticipating a very big autumn. Earlier I'd said a big fall, and that scared people. Autumn. But I think we've got a lot of really good things on both the attraction and expansion fronts in that area, and looking forward to that. One of the things I'm very proud of at the CEP is that we have an incredible team working on behalf of the county and actually all of the citizens in our community, and our mission to be the catalyst for a prosperous community. And just so proud of all of them. But one I want to highlight for you is what Dean Blinkhorn's doing in our talent development initiatives, in particular in what we call NextWorks, which is our partnership with the school system and Marion Technical College and the College of Central Florida. Dean has done far more than I ever thought he could in the first 2 years of this initiative. It is getting the work that we're doing with the school system and the colleges is not only getting attention across Florida, it's getting attention across the nation. Dean has been asked to speak next week at our national convention in California in front of 1,000 chamber and economic development leaders to talk about what we're doing here. He was also just named a Talent and Education Fellow by ACCE. That's a big deal for us. It's a very competitive application process. He's one of, I think it's 10 across the nation. They fund this for him for the next year, and it opens us up once he completes it to a number of additional grant funding opportunities. So we're really excited, pleased for the work he's doing and the impact it has on our community and on our future. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you all might have for me today.
Thank you, Mr. Shealy. Anyone on the board with any, yes, Commissioner Zalek?
Kevin, I know that we continue to work with, the Enterprise Florida folks and those guys. So what is that looking like as the new governor rolls in and I know that we've been able to get some grant funding for, the McGinley property
Right.
and so just what is your read
Sure.
on that?
I think, and we were very fortunate, we had then Congressman DeSantis in before the election. We were one of the first groups to have him in to speak to one of our groups. And he was pretty clear. He's not anti-economic development. He's not very strong on a lot of traditional economic development. We're hoping as he has been able to have a chance to see the competitive nature, particular in the Southeast, the importance of that. We know, excuse me, Enterprise Florida has traditionally and still is the lowest funded state economic development organization in the Southeast. It is the most populous state and has the lowest budget. For us, it's been about how can we be aggressive. And so all of our activity over the last 6 years has really been self-driven. We continue to partner with Enterprise Florida. In fact, see what time it is. They have a client coming in today to look at Ocala here in the next couple of minutes. And so that's important. But on the front of, as we're working very hard to tell our own story and to drive that, I was just having conversations with Beth McCall as a school board member. Jeannie and I were discussing this. We had a meeting yesterday. We think on the job growth grant applications this time that it's really going to be about skills and workforce. That those are the areas that this administration is going to want to see. We'll be coming back to you all. We're very excited. We had a meeting. We're going to be coming, and CEP just helping to coordinate, but a united grant application that we'd like to see from Marion County, the City of Ocala, Marion County Public Schools, the College of Central Florida, Career Source Citrus Levy Marion, where we're coming together and saying we're working as one, and here are some continuing education initiatives that meet the needs of our business community that also hit our targeted areas, both from CEP and Career Source, that allows our students to get credentials they need today to go to work and continue to have a path to earn that associate's degree and get additional credentials. We think it is it's what we're already doing, and we're putting an application together and move forward in that front.
That's really, absolutely, that's great news. I would say that health and science sector, if we could really put some focus on that as well.
We've looked at that. We're on this application. I think we're going to focus on the logistics and the automation manufacturing because we have programs and pieces in place that we can expand on, and we can already tie a number of job opportunities to that. But we had a lot of discussion yesterday about health sciences. Obviously, that's huge for the college and for our community. We're just not sure we could put together the appropriate application that would be successful with that at this point.
You do engineers too.
I wrote the engineers also.
Yeah. And it's actually engineering tech is what we're looking at.
Well, again, just staying on that health and science, when we met with Veterans Affairs just recently, we talked about our request for the Veterans Nursing Home to be to the next nursing home to be located here in Marion County, and they got excited about the fact that we were really trying to grow our talent within.
Right.
So.
And I would just, as another piece of what Dean does for us, he does so many things. He also oversees our Live Life Here initiative, where we're working to recruit talented people to our community. As you've mentioned, nursing and engineers are two of our three targets with that. We know that we have 1,000 open nursing positions at any one time in Marion County. And so really focusing on how we continue to try to attract that talent for both nurses, engineers, and IT professionals to our community, doing a lot of efforts in that area. So that while we, obviously for us, a top priority is the funding for CF to expand that health sciences facility, to grow that, but also we can't wait for that. Even if they got funded today, obviously that'd be several years before we could see the benefits. So make sure we're recruiting those talented people to our community.
Anything else for Mr. Shealy?
No, just good job. Keep it up. Keep the jobs
Thank you all.
going.
Thank you for being with us. And we'll transition now to Brad King, State Attorney.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just wanted to make sure I was here today since we have had a bit of a change in our, what is typically baseline budget. And I'm here to answer any policy questions at the end. Mr. Gladson and Dan Gonison have actually put the budget together, but in case you had any questions, I wanted to try and be here if I could.
Well, we welcome all three of you and thank you.
I believe, since we started last year with Mr. Gonson with the IT budget, we were gonna request from the commission if we could start with the IT budget. It's a larger portion anyway, and he can answer any questions that you might have.
And I'm going to just ask that the microphones pop up a little. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
We are asking for an increase this year, and I can go over a few of the reasons, and Bill's going to go over some of the reasons also. We have a VMware environment and with 3 servers and a storage area network, and Dell has designated that equipment as end of life, so we need to replace that equipment. We won't get support from Dell. We're doing a rewrite on a case management system this year, so we've requested money for a consultant to assist our programmers in the beginning to get started on that project.
And what was that again?
It's a case management system that was written in-house. It's written in an older language, Delphi. We're moving to C# and Visual Studio. We have a programmer that's going to retire probably in a few years. It's hard to find people who know anything about those older languages, so we need to do a rewrite on that.
That's the program by which we manage. It does everything as far as managing our cases. It's all done electronically. Even the filing now is done electronically. And frankly, nobody uses the old language, the computer language that we use. And the only programmer left that we have that knows it is about to retire. So we've got to move to a new language.
I haven't heard about being programmed in that in decades.
Thank you for being
That's great.
so.
Glad we're updating it,
Right.
because no one's going to be able to work on it. for
Well,
sure.
Mr. Gonson's probably the only one who understands any computer language in the group here, so.
We are asking a little bit more money for training because of that too, because of the VMware upgrade and for the programming. We're going to be replacing some of our desktops, about half of our desktops that are about 9 years old this year also. And that's the more technical side of the reason for the increase.
Yes, I'll start with Commissioner Zalek and then
Well,
we'll
the
go.
Surface Book's working good for you guys?
What's that?
The Surface Books, are you from?
We're experimenting with those right now.
Because what did we do last year?
We bought a few as an experiment
Okay,
ahead
that's
of
what I
time
thought.
because we won't need to replace the laptops for several years, but I wanted to get input from all of the attorneys and see what they thought about it and how they worked. And we're still going through that phase right now.
Okay, so your testing phase, at least from last year, seems like it's good?
Some like
Folks
them,
are
some don't.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just preference.
We're going to
I
continue
don't
to
like it
test.
because it's too small. I can't read it.
Well, and some people just prefer a general laptop, and
Yeah.
it does have a few more limitations.
We just want to make sure we did testing ahead of time before we bought, everybody one of these things. And we may end up getting split that between what the person wants.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Bryant?
And I just had a question regarding an issue that we're starting to see cities, counties, as far as your malware and being under attack and taken ransom. Are you guys beefing up your training for
We are, actually.
employees and everything else? Because we've
I just
had
implemented a program, it's called Know Before, and what it does is it simulates a phishing campaign. We just did it a few weeks ago. We sent out a bunch of email to our users, unbeknownst to them. They were just simulated phishing attacks, and so it'll track who actually clicks on a link or an attachment, report that back to my console. And then after that, we've provided training. And
We've
we're
had-
going to continue with the training and the simulated phishing attacks to see who might click on a link.
Yeah, we've
That's
had
great
two, City of Key Biscayne and Lake City here recently, both had their systems taken over, and they had to pay $480,000 ransoms each in Bitcoin.
Yeah, and some
So-
agencies prefer to do that. It's less expensive sometimes to do that. You really don't want to have to do that. If you have really good backup systems, you don't have to do that. But if you don't, you've lost the data unless you pay the money.
Yeah, so anyway, that was my question.
Very good. Do we have any other
And I'm just the contract service, is that part of the upgrade, or is that something different?
Well, it's for the, it's a rewrite. And the consultant, I'm guessing we'll need him for a couple of weeks. Our programmers will be taking training in C# and Visual Studio. We need his assistance in the beginning just to get them started. They're very experienced programmers. They're good at that, but they just want his assistance in the initial stages of the rewrite.
That makes sense. Gotcha.
Very good. Do you have anything else to add?
Our two changes in the general fund that are not IT related that I think the commission may have questions about. First, we're requesting 4 OPS non-benefited positions. The total ask for that is $61,000 annually. The purpose of that is to have people, preferably retired people from the community, retired law enforcement officers maybe, come into the office and review body camera videos. And as the commission's aware, Marion County Sheriff's Office and the Ocala Police Department have body cameras now. And they're it's the only sheriff's office in the entire circuit that has body cameras. And OPD is the second largest and the largest of all the other agencies in the circuit that has body cameras. And the impact of that, having it been implemented a couple of years ago, is starting to really manifest itself in the amount of time that our prosecutors have to spend watching body cameras. I have some figures, but they don't break it down specifically to how many body camera videos we get, but I can tell you that the Sheriff's Office uses evidence.com as a cloud-based way of delivering body camera videos to our office. They've sent 28,000 items of evidence electronically through evidence.com. I can't say, how many of those are body camera videos. I know that each case, because every deputy has one, has at least one body camera, and what we can tell is pretty much an average of 2 body cameras on every single case. So if you do the math, we've got 15,000 body camera videos to watch, and it's, with going to court, doing discovery, having trials, pre-trials, all that, we're requesting for 4 people that we can assign. Like I said, they're OPS, they're non-benefited, on cases where there's too many cameras to watch and we can't get to it and our prosecutor needs some assistance. We can have them go ahead and review that and look for the things that the prosecutor needs to look for so we can disclose those things to the defense. We have an affirmative obligation to disclose any statements of the defendant or anything that may negate the guilt of the defendant to the defense attorneys. And with the addition of the body cameras, it becomes more and more difficult. So that's the request that's different, that was not asked for last year.
I knew that was coming. I mean, I knew there was going to be costs. There's just, every time you add, especially technology on that kind of mass, and then you get people showing up and you got half a dozen officers on a scene. I was wondering how on earth you guys were going to get through some of that stuff, and then what about the you and I have had a conversation before, but what about the redaction on video? Does that become an issue?
Fortunately, right now, it has not become too much of an issue for us, but it is an issue because they are public record.
So what happens in that case?
We have a public records, person assigned in our office who is constantly responding to public records, from news media, from defendants, from people that just want a copy of a body camera video.
So there's a child on scene and somebody comes in, domestic violence. What happens to that video?
Public records law is obviously very broad, but when it comes to body cameras, there are some specific exceptions. There are some things that you would think it makes common sense that they're not public records. So, for example, there's sometimes when you're inside someone's home, your body camera would not be public record if certain things are taking place. The problem with that is, if we've got 15,000 body cameras to review and someone makes a large public records request, in addition, because everything goes over in discovery, but then that's a whole nother animal sitting trying to figure out what's exempt and what's not. So it's difficult, and other agencies in larger jurisdictions where they have more media public records requests of body cameras, I know it becomes a problem. The other request is we have traditionally gotten $87,000 for the early intervention program. I believe it's going on for about 10 years. That is 1 ASA FTE and half of a support staff FTE. That has been the same. We haven't had an increase or requested an increase from the county for that funding, from what I can tell, since it started. I did a little bit of math to figure out what would be a reasonable increase based on the past 10 years that have gone by, excuse me, and using a formula of 1.5% annually, I came up with a number of 102. So the increase would be from 87,000. The request would be for 102,000. Two things have happened. The state has mandated an increase in ASA minimum salary. Come October, it's going to become 50,000. Right now, it's 41. When you add the benefits associated with a prosecutor at even 41,000, all the government, all the health insurance and all those other things add up to around $90,000 for a base, $85,000 for a base ASA. So once it goes up to 50, we're getting close to that 102 number. So I felt it was a reasonable request to increase, or ask the county commission to increase that that amount. Those are the two changes that we've got in the budget.
Board, do you have any questions or necessary clarity for any of the items that have been presented?
I appreciate the fact that you're going to use, either retired folks or other people, instead of putting an ASA on it or requesting more positions in that fashion that have extreme amounts of benefits, and that we can use some of the great talent we have in our community in a different way. Because, that's just, quite frankly, that's just data entry and man hours that you need. And I appreciate you taking that tact instead of some other ways you could have done it. I think you're going to save the taxpayers a lot of money that way.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, so in our budget this year is the capital for the build-out of the fourth
Yep.
floor. Do you have any comments about that? I'd like to know, just so we can get it on record, is that something that you feel is necessary that we go ahead and move forward with at this time? I know we've talked about it in the past couple years, but if we
I
could
think
discuss
we
that a
need to
little
keep
bit.
moving forward with it. This is one of those things, I don't think any of you were here when the last courthouse was built, but only Mr. Elsperman and I had been telling the commission for years, we're gonna have this, and the commission had been putting money aside. So there was at least some, I think it was like $5 million set aside that we put into the new courthouse fund. And that's it. We're getting to that point where we're going to have more space. When we moved to the courthouse, we actually took a reduction in space to fit within the area that we're in now, and we filled it pretty much, and we're going to have to be looking to move people.
Okay.
And off-site creates all kinds of problems.
Right.
So,
So, Mr. King,
yes.
have you been putting some money aside to help with that build-out?
Have I? Sure.
You do have some? Honestly, if you've got some, that would be a help to us.
In my own pocket that you
No.
want? Well, we've been putting the request in for, gosh, probably,
Several years.
yeah, I was going to say 4 or 5 years, just as a
At least.
kind of a reminder, hey, we're going to need this, hey, we're going to need this. But within my budget from the county, no, I'm not allowed to. Are you talking about from my state budget to your county budget? My state budget is 97% salary dollars.
Okay.
I don't have anything for that.
Statute specific
Yeah.
too, that it's
Okay.
the county's responsibility.
And I wanted to ask the question specifically this year because I know that in the past several years, we have been putting it in as a, listen,
Right.
this is coming, so this is the year that you're pretty much outgrowing your space and you're gonna need that space.
Yeah, and of course, we're looking to, even if you start this year, it's not gonna be finished
Right.
for
For a couple
probably
years.
2. So, we're still looking down the road at what it's gonna be like.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gold?
And he's correct, completely correct. They took a pretty big size difference going from the other one from when you were in the old,
Right.
the annex, right? The
We
annex
had
building.
we had the whole,
Yeah, it had pretty
clerk's
much the whole
annex
building,
building.
yeah. There, that when you go in there now, or I haven't been in there a few months, it's pretty cramped. So they're using their space very wisely and then on top of each other, so I do agree with that.
Very good. Yes, Commissioner Zhao?
And have you looked at the layout? Was that good? Or at least some examples?
there were some changes we wanted to make
Okay.
because we only had like one place of ingress, egress,
Okay.
and some things like that. But we've worked on the floor plan for a little while now.
And they're talking about also adding, I know with Chief Judge Taddy, the courtroom.
Right.
Does that seem to work to your?
I think that's gonna go on, on the fourth floor
Right.
that's vacant. Half of it's gonna be their courtroom and the other is gonna be ours.
Right.
And I think from what I saw, it's gonna work.
Okay.
The floor plan I saw, with some modifications, changes.
Okay. Well, thank you for being with us today. I wish the three of you a really pleasant
Thank
day
you.
going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go prosecute somebody. Just not us.
I don't have any concerns about me.
Or else I'm gonna need this guy.
We're going to transition now to Michael Graves, our public defender, and his team. Good morning.
Good morning. I'll leave my team back there and
Okay.
not subject them to this. So, our budget, may it please the commission, our budget this year is a little different than last year. We're substantially asking for less when it comes to IT. That's because we have completed our 2-year computer project and we love our Surface Pros and repurposing our Surface Pros into desktop units now for our support staff. So we completed that. It took 2 years. We appreciate the commission, but we should be good for a number of years. Our biggest changes this year mirror the state attorney's office. The first being I'm asking for approximately, it is $36,948 in additional personnel funds, again, as a result of the body cameras. Our body camera responsibilities are slightly different than the state attorney's office. They include not only the review of those body camera and films given to us in discovery, but also taking the time to go now show those, the applicable camera footage to the defendants, many of whom are in custody. And again, it's much like the state attorney's office, because Mr. King and I talked about this as we were talking about our requests. We think it's an outstanding use of retired law enforcement, individuals entry level in the community, out of the community college, out of their criminal justice program, that can review the footage. They can even do it working from home at times. All would be less than 30 hours a week, so they would be unbenefited OPS individuals. And I would hope that during next year's legislative budget sessions, that we can join with the county, though it isn't a large amount of money right now. It's an amount of money that will continue to grow. I know that the state has made legislative budget requests. We have made legislative budget requests for the additional state funds to fund this manpower. They've not been granted in either of the last 2 legislative sessions. There have been other issues that we've been dealt with. But we think that with our commission's support going to the legislative delegations, that we might be able to get this amount of funds where I will say where I think it appropriately lies, which is with the state. Though this is a problem unique to this county only because the sheriff and OPD are using the body cameras, which is wonderful. I wish we could get more law enforcement agencies in our circuit to do so. This is thinking to the future, but I can tell you it has become, when the state gets 28,000 videos, that means I'm getting about 73% of that, because that's approximately the amount of cases that the public defender's office handles in the criminal justice system, and that's reflected in the difference in the amounts. The Other issue is, again, a bit of an increase in our early intervention last year. And Commissioner Bryant, I have not forgotten, you asked if we could attach some real numbers. I can tell you that our early intervention division lawyer closed out and handled approximately 394 cases, almost all felonies. We had to move them when the judges refused to go along with the rocket docket and trying to move. We made a decision with the state of Florida, with Mr. King, that the best purpose would be to try to concentrate on individuals that were charged with felonies that we could get out, because those would be the kind of the longer duration of sitting in the jail, waiting. And it also made up a larger portion of the high-cost inmates, those with medical issues, those taking psychotropic medication, those seeking additional care and need, without jeopardizing, of course, public safety or the quality of representation we had. So it's hard to quantify a dollar amount, because depending on which county you talk to, they're going to give you a different number on what the daily cost is. But if you just went by the average time that we're saving is a month per defendant, and actually I think it's more than that, especially in dealing with felonies, and just at $55 per month, we're looking at a approximate savings of about $700,000, which is more than double the expense to the county. And we're looking at ways of doing it better. And I think those numbers will go up next year. And there are also ancillary costs that we are avoiding by doing this. And I'll be candid, and this is Mike Graves saying it, not the county commission. I want to keep the federal court system out of our jail numbers. That doesn't work well for anybody, and these proactive steps that the commission allows us to take to control jail overcrowding assist in doing that and letting our issues be our issues, and we'll solve those issues. So that's another non-quantifiable number that we can have out there, but we very much appreciate it.
So, and for anybody that might be listening this morning or watching this morning that's not here, they hear the word felonies and that they think that that's usually someone who's committed a crime that's more than a misdemeanor, of course. So what types of felonies are we talking about?
We're talking the nonviolent felonies of individuals that are in custody almost always, that are waiting for their court date, that the case would be resolved, and that they would have done more than the jail time that would have been required by their disposition in agreement with the state of Florida, Mr. King, excuse me, in the state attorney's office. So we're talking individuals that would be getting out of jail. It's just expediting them getting to court, because the sentence, that the incarcerative portion of that sentence would have already been completed. So it's good for all involved. And it's also, in some cases, individuals that we know will be going to state prison and that are not languishing in the county jail for a number of months, waiting for the transport to get into court so they can go on to state prison. We're going to get them on to the beginning of serving their sentence, and at the expense of the state and not the county. And again, it's also highlighting a lot of the medical costs inmates, which can often be thousands of dollars per month.
You said your count was about 394?
394 is the amount of early intervention cases we handled in the last calendar year, and we know we're up this year so far.
Good, and I think that actually our cost per inmate's up to about $75 a day, isn't it?
Somewhere
Is that the
around
last number that I heard?
I was thinking
I didn't think it was that high.
66.
Anyway, so, yeah, that's.
I was trying to be as conservative as
You-
possible.
Yeah, so you
No, that's a
probably,
conservative number.
there's probably a little more savings in there, but I'm not
Right.
100% sure. So I think that's, I mean, if you look at total budget, what comes from the county, that's a pretty considerable return on the investment, for lack of a better way of saying it. So, yeah.
and it couldn't be done without your cooperation and foresight in doing so, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
may, what Mr. Graves and Mr. King would need to recognize too on these two requests on this deferral is our Sheriff's Department and Mr. King are starting a civil citation process that may affect these numbers next year. So, Mr. Graves, you may be ready to address those differences where possibly a civil citation may have relieved you of anything. Because that's in the works. for
And
sure.
thank you, Mr. Ellspermann. We'll be ready to do that. We don't think it's going to have a tremendous impact on our office because the civil citations are going to be going to individuals that normally resolve their case at arraignment in the court system before they were appointed to the services of the public defender. But we are looking at that in funding aspects across the board, which will include the amount of fines we collect, which make up 25% of our funding from the state.
Well, and they get the civil citation instead of going to jail, correct?
Correct.
Being arrested. So, I mean, that you're going to see an impact, I think, in several different places, a positive
Let's
impact.
hope.
Absolutely so. Absolutely so. And once again, Marion County becomes the leader in the circuit in that regard.
With the felony going from 300 to 1,000, I think with this last legislative session as well, do you have an idea how that may be impacting your numbers?
That's probably a better question for Mr. King. I think it's not going to have significant impact on the jail numbers because you're going to end up with a petty theft. Number one, they didn't change the number of thefts to enhance to a felony. So by the time you reach number 3, you're a felon no matter what the amount. And candidly, quite often in county court, if you've committed a petty theft in the amount of $500, $600, what would have been a felony in the past, you're likely to do more jail time now. In other words, any incarcerative portion of the sentence is going to be done at our expense in the county jail rather than a state prison sentence because that's not going to be available. So we think there's going to be a trade-off, but we're keeping track of those numbers. The same criminal justice reform package that was passed this year also requires some greater transparency, so we're going to statewide be having the ability to track some of those numbers for next year.
Commissioner Zalek, did you have anything else?
No, the only thing I wanted to add, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, is that I think that, Ms. Graves is absolutely correct and that during the next legislative session, that should be something that's on our list to make sure, because quite frankly, that personnel, we do technology, we need to do some of the other things, but we shouldn't have to provide that personnel, although it's absolutely needed, and I appreciate the way they're doing it. I just think that's something we should be mentioning and talking to our legislators about and getting around there, because otherwise it's going to continue to bloat over time. It's just going to get too expensive for the county to carry.
So can we, I think, get a consensus probably to put that on a list when we start talking about our legislative
Hopefully we
priorities?
can work with Mr. Graves and the State Attorney's Office, and
support.
when we go up to Tallahassee, maybe even do that jointly this year
I would
during
love
Marion
to.
County Day.
Love
and-
to.
So
and
what
get
needs to be
together.
on the list? Additional funding from the state? or
Yeah, because that personnel should be funded
by the state?
for body cam review by the state,
Right.
both on the state attorney side and the public defender side.
Okay. Anything else for Mr. Graves? Well, thank you for being with us today, and thank you for the work.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for all you do.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Next, we'll transition to Wesley Wilcox, our Supervisor of Elections. Good morning, Mr. Wilcox.
It's our elections guru.
Good morning, Commissioners. Madam Chair, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. It is truly an honor to sit here today as Supervisor of Elections for Marion County. The trust that the voters of Marion County have instilled in me, actually in all of us, at least for me personally, is deeply humbling. If you don't feel that, you need to. I've been elected to serve as the leader of, at least in my opinion, one of, if not the best operating supervisor of elections office in the state of Florida. We are viewed as one of the most innovative offices while continuing to be one of the most fiscally conservative offices in the state. And it is my honor and duty to continue both of those traditions. Obviously, by now, you have noticed that my upcoming budget is increasing from last year. It really should not be much of a shock because for the last almost 4 years, I've been telling you that we're about to enter the once every 4-year cycle where I have an additional election. I can give you a heads up now. In 2023, I will be back doing this same thing again. Hopefully, I'm back doing this. But my budget has increased, and you can virtually tie every single increase into one of 3 categories. The first one, and the largest, being the addition of one election. March 17th of 2020, we will be conducting the presidential preference primary, which, as I mentioned, is once every 4 years we do that. With a countywide election, that's required early voting sites. I've got 9 early voting sites. Vote by mail, 120 polling places, 125 precincts, full-on countywide election. The second item, that the next largest item in my increase is due to a federal court case that was, I don't believe it's completely settled yet through the federal judiciary, but I know Governor DeSantis has come out and basically said elections offices will now provide bilingual election material. And so every ballot from this point forward, including even when I do city elections, will be bilingual. You will see English and Spanish on every ballot from this point forward, including sample ballots. I'm in the process of transitioning all of my signage. Every polling place sign, the big A-frame signs that I have that say vote here, now are being replaced because they must be bilingual due to the federal injunction as well as Governor DeSantis. And then the third item that and certainly not the least important, is the increase in security in elections offices, not only cyber, but physical as well. I listened to a couple of the items from earlier this morning, and all of the things that they were saying and some of the packages that they were using, we've now been using in my office for a number of years. And I know a lot of elections offices across the state have now taken that lead because me and a couple other offices have done that. The company that was mentioned earlier is actually based out of the state of Florida, and I've been doing business with them for quite a while in some of their educational and campaign type stuff. You mentioned the ransomware attacks on 2 cities here in the state of Florida. Believe me, that is not lost on us in the election community, and we understand the ever-emerging threats to us, and we are attempting to stand vigilant. So, any questions of me on my upcoming budget?
Yes, Commissioner.
The lady that you brought with you, I hear that she's gonna.
I was going to, if you'll give me a second, let me do any budget stuff, and then I was going to make a comment before I got off of here.
Yes, Commissioner Zalett.
So, just, so the printing and binding, I thought the postage was gonna be way up.
Well, the postage, it does go up a little bit, as you can see in here. It goes up some because first-class postage is basically 50 cents.
Right.
In the primary, the PPP, which is my presidential preference primary, and the primary, even when we go bilingual, we're still going to be 1 sheet of paper. The general election, very probably, or at least possibly, will be 2 sheets of paper. So the postage for vote by mail going into the general election will go up. And vote by mail, I have to mail in September of 2020. So it'll be coming out of that September election. But the printing and binding, my sample ballot cost basically double. because not only do I have English, I've got now the Spanish of it. So the size of the document goes up, as well as the printing of the actual ballots, the cost of those. I'm going to go possibly 2 sides on some stuff that I wouldn't have done before.
So which piece of the ballot is bilingual?
Every piece of the ballot.
Do I
If
go
you
from,
see
like,
it,
Carl to Carlos?
no, well, other than
Just messing around,
right,
sorry.
other than candidate names, you're correct. There is an exception. Carl Zalek is the same in English and Spanish.
Oh, okay. I just,
But the office title will be in English and Spanish. Vote for one will be in English and Spanish. Official ballot will be in English and Spanish.
Like underneath each other, Wesley?
Exactly.
Or
You'll do
congruent?
English followed directly by Spanish.
Okay,
In
so just
office
each
titles,
paragraph.
correct. In office titles, if it's a short office title, they may actually appear on the same line, but the vast majority of our office titles are a little bit longer, so you're going to get an English version directly followed by a Spanish version. When we do proposed amendments, you're going to see the English verbiage, the Spanish verbiage, and then the yes, see, and no as your 2 choices underneath it. But you'll see all English, all Spanish, and then the choices underneath both languages.
Interesting.
Any other budget questions for me?
Thank God it wasn't on last year's election, because their printing and binding would have been $500,000
There
with all those
are
amendments.
currently 26 proposed amendments
Are there?
working through. We were delivered 28,000 initiative petitions last Wednesday.
28,000
28,000
from Marion County?
for Marion County. We did. We
Those
processed.
people, they must be pretty good.
We processed about 2,200 Monday. It was what day of the week is this? Yeah, and a little over 3,000 yesterday. So in my office, I mean, that's humans looking at sheets of paper and signatures. We talk about candidate petitions, and we all have to have about 2,400. These guys, when they do initiatives, are talking in the 600,000 and 700,000s. We got 28,000 for one initiative petition for Marion County.
Wow. What's the initiative?
Yeah.
I don't know. You'd have to ask somebody that's actually looking at me, and it's not me, luckily.
I do have a question. So, not to get in your business, but
Okay.
could everybody get a card? Do you want a English or Spanish version?
The challenge with that, and we've investigated that, and we've thought about it. The challenge you're going to probably face is with the Department of Justice. Department of Justice, the only time they've really okayed those type of selections is once you get into tri and quad languages. You know, if we were required to do things in 4 languages, then you can get into language choices. If you're just doing the 2, the federal courts and the Department of Justice have both frowned on that. And, you know, if you ever get, and I think I heard Public Defender Graves earlier mention not wanting the federal government to get into your stuff, and Department of Justice, they come into something and it's usually not good for anybody involved.
Okay.
So,
Just-
yes, we did. And we were really talking about, is there a way to ask somebody? You would think that would be an easy, simple solution, but it's from a federal government, Department of Justice perspective, it's not. It's not. So, any other budget stuff? As Commissioner Moore alluded to just a few moments ago, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a minute or two to thank somebody. Somebody that's accompanied me for the last 7 years in here as support, and my predecessor for about a decade prior to that. So for the last 17 years, Marcia from my office has been our finance director as well as my director of business operations. I would like to congratulate her on a wonderful career with the Supervisor of Elections Office and wish her the very best in retirement. So, thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. So, I'm sorry,
Yes, ma'am.
right before you leave, because we are looking at a shortfall,
Yes.
if there is any opportunity for you to return anything to the County Commission General Fund this year.
I will definitely. As mentioned earlier, I like to think of our office as being extremely fiscally conservative.
Yes.
And I will continue to charge that. And if there is anything that I can not do and feel comfortable with, I'll make sure that I give everything possible back to you. So.
Well, we appreciate that, and if you come up with anything while we're in this process through the 18th of this month, that would be helpful to know, just so that we can get it computed before we send out the first trim. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We
all.
appreciate your good work and your team.
One other quick comment, and I know I sent something to you earlier, Commissioner, concerning canvassing board, but I don't want to get out of here before I mention that at least shortly. That's coming. There's a workshop in October. There's a new requirement, canvassing board. People have to go through signature verification training. So just, yeah, so.
Commissioner Bryan has graciously accepted that role on our behalf.
And remember, we will need an alternate as well.
And that will be Mr. Minter.
I'm so
And
excited.
he's not here, so that's why you got him, he's not here.
We've already had the conversations.
Okay.
Do you need something in writing to confirm that for
Yes,
you?
please.
Okay,
Yes, please.
we'll get that
Right.
to you.
I'm so excited that after, this will be
how you
what, my
do it,
third
wouldn't you?
time on the canvassing board?
Yes.
That they're now going to teach me how to verify signatures.
About time.
Yes, I am.
We'll talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking really sharp today.
Always like to give a handout, that way you're paying attention to it, and not to me.
There is a Billy Smith.
There is a Billy Smith. That was good.
Not for long, not for long.
You see that big smile on his face?
I know. Like he's got plans.
Well, welcome, Mr. Smith. Thank you for being with us today as we go through the budget process.
Well, thank you for having me. Good morning. First of all, I'd like to begin by saying that, as you all know, my primary duty is to arrive and assign a value for about 290,000 real and personal properties in Marion County.
Wow.
And once I are finished with that job, of course, as you know, I will provide the county and the Florida Department of Revenue total values. Florida Department of Revenue, of course, takes those values and all the information from my assessment role to analyze it and to approve it as to whether or not it meets all their requirements for a fair and equitable assessment role. Also, when I provide it to the county, of course, and to all taxing authorities, not just the county, you all use it to set your millage levies so you can fund governmental services. This year, of course, we added approximately $1.25 billion of value to the assessment roll, almost $500 million of new construction, which is the highest it's been since 2007, I believe. And this was about a 7.5 or a little over 7% increase totally. We continue in the property appraiser's office to be one of the most cost-effective property appraiser's offices in the state. Number 4 in the state as far as budget per parcel. I'm very proud of that. We continue to do that. Again, I always throw Alachua County under the bus when I compare them with us. Bless you. We're $15 a parcel per budget. They're like I believe $50. Their budget's 6 million, ours is 4 million.
Could
they
you
have-
repeat that one more time?
They have,
Well, but it's easy to pick on them, Billy. Come on.
well, it is. I mean,
Yeah,
because
but what was our dollar value?
ours is
15.
$15 per parcel, theirs is $50 per parcel. Their budget's 6, ours is 4. They have half as many parcels as we do in Marion County, even less population than we do in Marion County. So, not to say that, you know, they're doing what they think they're doing is best, and of course, we think that we're doing what's best for Marion County. And we're doing it very cost effectively, I believe. Our goal every year, of course, is to provide outstanding public service. We do that by way of accessible data, accurate information, and being prompt and courteous with our customer service. This in turn requires a staff that believes that they are a public servant and they're not doing just a job. I'm very proud of our staff because they believe in this philosophy and they work under that philosophy. I know that this board is extremely proud of all of their employees as well. I know there's a meeting that doesn't go by that I don't hear you tell your staff how great they are and what a great job you're doing. I mean, let's face it, they're the ones that make us all look good.
That's right.
Even you, Carl.
Wow. That's pretty darn hard to do. Are you sure about that? I got one of those faces for radio, not really for TV.
With that in mind, I'd like to show our employees how much we appreciate that, appreciate them, and I am asking for a 3% increase in salaries for my staff. I believe that, again, that's, well, that is the majority of my increase in my budget is that increase in salaries. So I certainly won't, and that's contingent upon what the board does for the county employees. I always follow what you do as well. So I hope that you'll certainly seriously consider that this year. And I thank you for your consideration and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I will say that is one of our priorities is to look at the merit increase, our pay for performance that we've begun here in the county. And I too hope that we'll be able to do the 3%. I'm going to turn to Commissioner Moore.
I'll just say you've built a wonderful team there, so I support the 3% for them. And I know from being friends with a lot there in your office, they work day in, day out, and they do work tirelessly, as do all the other constitutionals. So, you know, when we're always thanking the employees, we always say thank you, county employees, includes the constitutionals. But I know people within your office and yourself, you built such a phenomenal team and just a well-oiled machine, and so many people brag about you. That's what's awesome. The only one thing that I think's funny is some people will be, well, he's the tax collector. No, he's the property appraiser. So I've had to explain to people.
And make sure you say the one with hair.
The one with hair.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll let you say that.
There's a huge difference.
You know, George might. Oh, he is back there. Okay.
You can tell
Well, thank
we've
you.
been here a few
Appreciate it.
days.
Yes, we're getting punchy.
I'm sure.
Yes, Commissioner Zalek.
Are you sure you're not off on any of these assessments? Because Commissioner Bryant's budget this year is a little bit more expensive than it was
Well,
last year, and so she needs more money.
of course, well, you know, the main thing is that I make sure that all of your assessments are correct. So,
The first thing you do is
yeah,
check
that's-
ours.
Absolutely.
Have you checked George's?
He's got too many properties
Oh,
to check.
okay.
Well,
you know.
we have a budget shortfall. I think
Okay,
Busy Bee
gentlemen.
needs a little bit more.
Busy Bee can pay a little more. That's fine. Pay my share.
So truly, I mean, there is a shortfall that we're looking for, and I am asking all the constitutional officers, if there's anything in your budget this year that you can return to go back into the general fund, just to help us
Greatly appreciate.
bring that millage this year. By the 18th, we'd love to hear from you, especially Mr. Tomich,
Okay.
to make a difference with that smallest amount would at least give a help.
I'll take a look and let you know.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.
The clerk has already said he'll have 100,000 in turn back money this year, so.
Yeah. He is
Anyway.
returning.
Anybody else
But
who
Billy's
has-
gonna do double that.
Billy, thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
And
I
your
appreciate it.
team over at your office. You guys
Thank
do a
you.
great job.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So you'll be with us next year as well.
One more year.
All right, so we'll save any other good comments until that
Hope your
date.
hair stays as good.
Unless he changes his mind.
Will
You
you-
know, David and I came in together, so I guess we're leaving together as well, so.
Well, to you and your team, thank you again.
Thanks.
Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.
And the last this morning of our constitutional officers is the illustrious George Albright. Oh,
Last
yeah.
but not least,
Me name is Jorge.
Hola, ¿cómo
Mi
está,
amo.
señor?
Mi amo.
Sorry, I
Jorge.
failed Spanish in
Yeah.
college and English and high school. Well, yeah, it was pathetic.
Well, Mr.
Well,
Albright,
good morning.
welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here today. Obviously, I've been sitting here the duration and listening to people, and it's interesting, Madam Chair, this is my 15th year of doing this. By the way, my 15th year of giving money back to you as well.
Yay, we can't wait to hear how much you've got.
Well, that's the good news. The bad news is, let's say 25 grand at this moment.
Okay.
But you can commit to that, but, we gave, some more money back last year, but, we did some restructuring this year and brought our base pay up, and that's what, the majority of the money was used for. So we don't have the money to give back that we did last year. But, our base pay needed to be raised. It was long overdue. We were losing people. I think I've discussed with you all, and now it's gotten even worse, or not worse, challenging. About 60% of our employees are 5 years or less. And that's a real task for them to learn the job. Y'all use us all the time, so you know what I'm talking about. So, that, as for everybody in America, employment and retention of quality employees is the biggest thing I think our biggest challenge right now. Madam Chair, I don't want to forget a couple things. One is cybersecurity has always been a concern of ours. Even before I got here, when Mr. Olson was here, we back up our computer systems several times every night, and they're sent off-site to other cities even. So we're in pretty good shape with that situation should we get hit with that. Our IT people do train on fleshing, and you know the drill. Don't open something that looks like it came from a bank.
Phishing, not
It works.
Well, there is a
What you
fleshing
said,
too.
fleshing too?
There is a fleshing too.
Yeah, the fleshing as well. So, if you all are not doing it, you're more than welcome to have your IT people get with our IT people, because we're training every one of our employees about what to open, not to open, that sort of thing. And there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Just have them get with Shorty, and we'll do it for you, whatever you want to do. So let me pass that on. So another, anyway, talking about the transition of this office about 5 years ago, we obviously got into concealed weapons, we've gotten into utilities, we've gotten into park passes. So this as David's job and Billy's job, there's a constant an expansion of duties, and seldom do we retire duties, but we're always expanding duties. And just the work we do with tax deeds is between our offices is a unbelievable challenge to get it right each time. One other thing I want to say, Commissioner Gold, I want to thank you so much. He is your TDC representative, and he and I have met several times, and we met with the board. First time me ever getting to meet with the board, met with Loretta numerous times. What came out of it is beginning tomorrow, we will be getting a software package delivered through the internet that will allow us to go in and look down on all of the Airbnb type sites at one time. And they're used by many dozens of cities and counties around the state. It's going to run about 28 grand. And we put the pen to it and found that there was virtually no way we wouldn't end up on a plus side by trying this for a year. we can get out of it anytime we want, including we can get out in 90 days if we want. But we want to stay in it a year and give this a whirl. And there's there's something like 80 major bed and breakfast platforms out there. They go and look at all of them, and then they give us the names, and then we will be sending the packets out to them. Through and there's a turnover. You weren't really sure about it, but there is it's not like you get the package once and you go, okay, now I'm not going to pay you anymore because I got the information, because there is a turnover in this business, a churning that goes on. But I know you all know from some of the work you've done that what's going on with DOR and some of the Airbnb and some of the other big ones, VRBO, they've got their own agenda, and I don't say that positive, negatively, it's just a thing. They've got their own agenda, including how to deal with local municipalities and taxing authorities, and they want to give us a wad of information without identifiers. And we've made the decision at this point, certainly we're in partnership with you all, to not accept that because we see enormous constitutional issues. They're giving you money but not really telling you fully where the money's coming from, and I see huge due process issues with that. So we're excited to try this. We think it's going to definitely generate more money for the TDC. You all have an aggressive agenda for the next 10 years. I, as a citizen, want to see an aggressive agenda in the next 10 years of what TDC money is being used for. So we're going to do our very best to just make sure people are paying that are required to pay. And it's not really a heavy-handed approach, but they even take pictures where we can go into Google Earth and trust me, if they say that, oh no, they don't do it, they do it. And there's proof sitting out there on the web that's provided to us.
So, Mr. Albright, along those lines, you send them a package, and if you don't get a response, or if they say, we don't do it.
George shows up.
Okay, so I was gonna ask, what's the
Well,
next
then
step?
they'll get a nasty, and eventually there will be sanctions that are allowed under your ordinance to be dealt with.
Okay, I just wanted to know that there are steps then that we can address
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you know, I've been recalcitrant, if you will, to get into the auditing business. I mean, again, Jeff knows this, but if you're going to audit somebody, you got to go hire a RISE, which is an acronym with DOR, certified appraiser or audit person, to the tune of a couple $100 an hour out of Orlando or Tallahassee. Those are the closest ones. And just school you in this, there's about 500, we're up to about 700, I guess we've got that are paying customers on this platform. But the biggest ones take the top 50, if that, pay the vast majority of the money because they're the big organizations. But they're the ones that we're, knock on wood, but we're certain they're paying the correct amount because they've got the computer software and they know better than to cheat the state of Florida or the county of Marion. Mm-hmm. So what you're chasing is the crumbs. Now, the issue has been for you all and the TDC, and I've now bought into this after I've seen numbers. There's a lot of little crumbs out there, and they're stacking up higher, and there is some evidence that they are stacking up by taking business from the big boys. And it's pretty, I mean, would you agree?
Yes.
So something had to be done, but you don't want to do something just to be doing something. Mm-hmm. And this looks cost effective. It's paid for. We don't take. I think what we're up to 2% we can take. We don't take anything anywhere near that. We take from you guys or from the TDC exactly what it costs, a half to a third of my FTE and any costs, and that's it. So it's a net driver. So it's going to come out of that money. But we're very excited that we think this is going to make a difference.
Well, you liken it to curbstoners.
Sorry?
I said you can liken this to the issue that we had
On curbstoning?
Yeah,
Yes.
years ago. You know,
Yes, that's
you've got
right.
people that are paying for space, and they're paying insurance, and they're paying to run a business, and then you have people that were out there just flipping vehicles. This goes back to the car business, just buying something off the street and flipping it. And so, you know, the independent dealers well, at that time, I was one of those independent dealers, and George was a state representative. And, you know, we came to him and said, look, the playing field is not level, and it affects the people who are legitimately in business.
That's the genesis of the whole thing, and this
Well, yeah,
one's now caught up.
you have
to it.
disruptors. I mean, that's the same problem that, you know, Uber has just destroyed the taxi market in just about every major city.
Well, Commissioner, and this is so darn complicated. I mean, there's a lot of people that genuinely don't know they're supposed to be paying.
Correct.
You know, and I have my own views on this. Is I think that as people find out they've got to go through this, they're going to throw up their hands and go, "I didn't sign up." They're either going to say, "I didn't sign up for this crap," or they're going to go with a big company that says, "We will pay the state of Florida and we will pay the county of Marion." Which VRBO and Airbnb is doing, but they're doing it in a way that we don't feel is legal. I don't want to say legal. It's probably not constitutional in my personal opinion, because you can't track. They don't give you the name of where the money came from. They give you a wad of money and they give you a transaction code, and unless you happen to go over to this guy on Lake Weir and you pull his records through an audit, and then you stumble on this transaction code, you won't know that this transaction code can be matched up to this money over here. But I'll tell you something else we learned, and made me literally roll my eyes. These companies have convinced the state of Florida to accept this. The sales tax money being generated to DOR is generated through this legal platform, and I'm amazed. That's all I can say. So if they've won that battle politically, there's not a battle to be fought here at a local level. So things have got to change up there or not. So then this became a fallback position, and it works. We are certain it works. And so anyway, that's the latest thing in the world of my business. Now back. Go ahead.
Yes, Commissioners.
So I'm going to ask a question federally. Do they have to turn anything into the federal government?
No, that would be on their schedule C, D, or F as owning a lake house and reporting rental income.
I was just wondering if the companies send out any kind of
1099, I don't know the answer to that.
Interesting.
I bet they don't.
Yeah, Commissioner Gold?
Real quick, we actually, it was brought to us by the hotel industry, and they were seeing a 3 to 6% decrease in hotel room sales that just attributed to this. So it was an actual thing, and always talk good about Mr. Albright's office, and did the other day speaking about how you're able to rent your properties out and how that works out good in some of your offices and everything. But
Well, you spoke good about his office, but you tell him what you said about him?
yeah, no, and I think
I'll
you've been
take that
doing that.
too.
But one of the things that we see with that, or what I was getting at, is when I went to him with this, I should have gone to him right at the beginning, and I told him that. But within minutes of discussing this, his knowledge of just bringing that to it was what made the difference. And I mean, I can't talk any higher about
Thank you so much.
You personally were able to do it with your legal background and everything. That it was quite an asset for this.
Well, listen, and Loretta Shaver's done a fabulous job. She does use a job. She's on it 24/7, and I'd never been before the TDC board, and they're a very committed bunch. Let's just say that.
Yeah, but you when you say you've never been before the board, though, but your office has been very involved
Yes, Maggie
with our
goes.
collections
Yes,
over
yes,
there, and you were very involved in helping to get all that set up in the beginning when we started talking about this. So you've done a great job in assisting them and in educating everybody in what they could do, and really forming a great partnership there. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. I was concerned because there's been an angst about this issue. Everybody sees something needs to be done, but they don't know what to do, and they don't want to do the wrong thing. So fortunately, this White Knight rode in, and we think it's going to solve a lot of the problem.
Very good.
Going to my budget, you know, I will be able to survive whether you give me the 3 positions or not, but I know you all use it. I see all 5 of you on a regular basis in the offices, and we've now come to realize that we've hit critical mass. Our offices are busy now all the time, every day. And remember, this is an interesting office. It's unique that we generate money. So the more productive we are and the more transactions we can flip, the more money goes to you all. I don't take a cent other than my budget. So everything we generate goes to you. So it's always in our best interest to have as many people on the counter as we can. Again, I've told you this for now about 10 years. The way we've been able to survive was as people retired, we were replacing them with entry-level people, and that money that covered us getting through the recession. That also covered us to be able to bring our starting pay up. And that's the biggest reason why you won't be getting a 6-figure number back from me this year. So my number is 287 total. In that is 3 new positions, a 3% increase as was spoken from Billy, an FRS increase, and a health insurance increase. So it's 287, 832. I think we had about $900 worth of capital outlay increase. So again, we're, you know, depending on what you all do, we'll be either flat or almost flat. And if you all decide we all collectively do something at the 1-2% or 3%, then that will ratchet up.
Okay.
So,
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner
George,
Bryant?
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
have any of your revenues numbers this year as far as concealed weapons permits, birth certificates?
no, I do not, but I'll tell you what, I'll send it over to the 5 of you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I'll get you birth certificate and a CWP.
It's always interesting to look at those numbers and see what you're generating over there. You
Well,
know.
business is brisk.
Very good.
Yes, and I want to thank you all. You all have been always fantastic to our office. I can't imagine not budgeting with you all, and it's been a pleasure. Something Mr. Olson started, and I've been honored to get to continue it. So,
Well, we certainly appreciate your work. Let me just ask the board if there's any additional comments. Mr. Albright, again, thank you to you and your team for what you do on behalf of the county and the state of Florida and the collection of all of those fees and taxes.
thank you very
So-
much. It totals about $410 million.
Wow,
So, churning a lot of money.
yes.
Thank you all. God bless.
And to you. Okay, we'll take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and have some
We're coming back.
conversation. What's that?
Y'all coming back?
Yeah, we've got a couple of things that
Watching Amanda jump, that was awesome.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore, for calling us back to order.
She didn't want to use the gavel, so I had to show her how it's done.
You're helping her. Yeah, it's good, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Boyonis requested that we pull back together for just a few moments to go over a couple of items that he wanted to review.
Okay. Based on the discussion we had with the IT department, we are requesting a new position. As part of those duties, we can assume the contract work that is taking place here at the auditorium. You ask us to do an RFP. So my recommendation will be to continue with the budget as proposed. We will not implement. We will do the RFP. It's gonna take some time. Then we will bring back to you 3 options. Do everything with the contractor, add the position and assume all the work in the auditorium, or add the new position and continue with status quo. County staff will do part of the work and the contractor will continue to do part of the work. Those are the 3 options I'm looking at. And it's probably gonna take 60 days to get the RFP results back. Is that clear? I mean, is that what you want me to do?
So again, those options are leave the budget as it's been proposed with the add to staff in IT and put the RFP out?
Put the RFP.
Or add the staff and not put the RFP out and stay status quo?
Continue with the budget as proposed and give me time to do the RFP and bring back to you those 3 options with the cost
Oh, I
for
see.
each one. Then you can decide at that time, probably before September, which option you want to go with.
Gotcha. Commissioner Zalek?
So, Munir, why, I mean, the people that are here already do those meetings, so why can't it simply be an amendment to add the rest?
Say that again?
Why can't it just be an amendment to the contract?
Without the new position?
I'm just saying, you said you had to do an RFP.
Oh,
Why would we need to do an RFP to get a price? Why can't we just get a quote? Or amend, the current contract to add the days we want?
we can, but I think if you do an RFP, you're gonna open it up to more competition and more people probably will be bidding on it. If you want me to just check with the contractor we have in place and get a price from him,
Well,
I
I don't
can
know
do
how
that
anybody else is
quickly.
gonna do the same, because they're gonna have a capital investment anywhere else, and
Well, isn't the contract, did I hear the contract is coming up for,
probably in February of next
Okay.
year.
usually renews every year, right? Or every couple years.
I didn't know.
Yeah, if you want me to get a price from the existing contractor, we can do that quickly.
I think we should do that.
Well, I think that we should just first look at that. I think you can just get that to us, and
Okay.
then we can decide if we want to go out for an RFP. If we think that's just too high, we
Right.
think we might get a better price.
We should be able to get that by next week, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
We need to make sure we develop a list of specs so all the services are included. What happens here in the auditorium?
yeah. So you're gonna have to ask them also to handle the streaming and the rest of it. But I don't think that's that much of. I mean, that's not that big of an amendment to the current contract.
Okay.
Okay, so Commissioner Bryant, did you have something?
Yeah, and in talking with Tom and a couple of his team members after our meeting the other day, I mean, if Tom didn't have to have someone here, he might not even need the extra position.
That's correct. I mean,
So,
That was gonna be my point of clarity to determine, does that mean he would not need?
That's why I asked.
yeah.
I can tell you, IT is loaded with work orders. And every time we bring somebody to be here sitting in the auditorium managing all of this, that's taken away from the work they need to be doing
Right.
with departments.
No, I thought it was clear that we either needed to have a contract person that did it all or our IT staff that did it all.
Yes.
Right.
Because we've had too many requests over the years that have built into a quasi quarter-time person.
We can get a price from the existing contractor. The reason we said RFP, because I think that's what was mentioned in the discussion, to do an RFP.
Okay,
We're still gonna keep the position in, correct?
For now, till next week.
Until we get more information.
right.
The other item would be, Amanda, the other item would be on the worker comp, and you already talked?
Yes, we're good on
We clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Okay, was there anything else?
that's it for now.
I had one
Yes.
suggestion that we might look at, on the crime prevention. We talked about percentages on there. The sheriffs would be either out of the MSTU or out of fine and forfeiture if they were able to relay some of that. I'd like to see if we can get consensus from the board to look at one of our PIO positions and see what the percentage of the work that they do comes out of crime prevention, and even though that may be a very small amount, but see if we can take that and fund it into there from one of our positions, because we know that they work on that.
Just know they're gonna need to document their time.
Yeah.
So
It may not be, it's fine, but it
Yeah.
may not be worth it. That's why we haven't really tacked it that much. It wasn't a significant amount of time before, but it may be now, I don't know. And every time you do that, that's less money you're spending in crime prevention, but I guess that doesn't really matter.
If you want, we'll look at it if I have the
That's up
consensus.
to the board if you want to look at it.
Are people tracking their time already?
So
Well, I
there may
mean,
not
we
be
will
enough.
have to if we want to fund it from the crime prevention.
Okay.
But it's not, it's doable.
It's up to the board to look at it. If you don't think it's
We can look at
worth
it.
looking at it, that's fine.
Well,
If
how
it's a
about,
quarter of their salary or something, Commissioner, I agree. If it's, you know, if it's an eighth of their salary, then I don't know if it's worth it. So I think that it's a great thing to look at.
Okay.
Jeannie, maybe we can poll them and see if they can give a number or look back at. Jeff would probably be the best.
It's easy to do. I mean, we know how much work we are doing on crime prevention, and we need to put those hours together and tell you a percentage what it will be.
okay, very good.
That's it.
All right, well, let me just look and see. The next time we will be in here on budget will be July the 18th, next Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Until then, enjoy your day.
Say lovey.
Stay lovely.
Talk about this or not?